All right, I don't need any introductions now. You guys know who I am. The only thing we'll want to say, though, is that they mentioned I'm a nutritionist, and I am actually a registered dietitian. There's a big difference between the two. A nutritionist would be somebody who took classes in nutrition, maybe geared towards sports, but did not take a pathway to be a medical nutritional therapist. So, at any rate, I'm a registered dietitian, and we're just talking about the health needs of like a 2 to 4 year old in that age range. They had started back in the 90s with the food guide pyramid. I don't know if you remember that. That has evolved into, it's called My Plate, and it depicts a plate, and it's at the top, I think, left-hand corner of one of your papers. And that is just to give you a good visual of what the portion depiction should be for that of a 2 to 4 year old. Hello, Russ. First thing on the list, whole grains. You need 3 to 5 servings or ounces of grains a day for that age group. And what is a serving? That could be a cup of ready-to-eat cereal. And again, you want to look at whole grains versus your processed, like the white breads. You want to veer towards the wheat bread, whole grain cereals, bran cereals. Half a bagel, half of an English muffin would be a serving size for that age group. Okay, half a cup of oatmeal, and like rice or pasta. And if you measure out a half a cup, it's not a lot. Might sound like a lot, but it's really not much. So your portions are definitely going to be much more limited. Recommendations to this age group is that 50% of those grains that we provide should be whole grains. So not that you need to keep track of, a checklist of how many whole grains did I give in a day, but so instead of buying white bread, buy whole grain wheat, whole grain cereals, and you don't even need to think about it. They're going to much more nutrient dense, less processing, and higher in fibers. Milk and dairy is only about 2 to 2.5 cups a day, and that's because you're looking at anywhere from a 2-year-old to a 4-year-old preschool. And recommended is still whole milk. And you might need to vary that based on the child, but usually whole milk is still what's recommended. Serving size is only a half a cup. Okay. And that could be soy milks or nut milks. They count as well. Yogurts. And yogurts, we're not talking Yoplait, filled with sugar and fruit. You want, unfortunately, something like a Greek yogurt that's going to give you the calcium and the protein in that amount, which is only about a half cup, in order to get the nutrient density. I know Kaylin used to love the Go-Gurts, quick and easy to go, and I guess it was a snack, but it's not the healthiest option when you're looking at yogurts. String cheese, though, great snack, not on the go snack. Can give you that protein and calcium, vitamin D. Okay. Fruits. Now, when you look at the plate, your plate, half your plate should be fruits and vegetables. Okay. So 1 to 1.5 cups a day. And this is just spaced out all day long. This is not one meal, where I can sit down and easily eat a full cup of fruit in one meal. But for a preschooler to offer fruit throughout the day is a great idea. 1/2 cup or 1 piece of a small fruit. 1/4 cup of fresh fruit to 1/2 cup. Strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, right into the season right now. Juice. Juice is a 1/2 cup is a serving. And again, we want 100% juice, not a Kool-Aid or a juice mix, but 100% juice. And actually, the recommendations there for kids are no more than 4 ounces a day. And I know it's tough when you have kids could drink a whole thing of juice all day long. It's concentrated. Actual serving size for like a grape juice is only 1/3 of a cup. Gary didn't believe me until I showed him. 1/3 of a cup is a serving size for grape juice. It's just very concentrated. So when you're bathing your teeth all day long in that fructose, not a great idea. It's a concentrated, but nutrient dense. But the recommendations are if you get 4 ounces of juice and the rest of the fruits come from the whole fruit. If you're using canned in its own juice, no syrup. Okay. Recommendations, be careful with 2-year-olds. You're looking at an esophageal diameter like this. So grapes should be quartered. Cherry tomatoes, grape tomatoes, those types of things, all quartered. Think of the size of the esophagus versus what they're eating. Popcorn, nuts, all those things should be avoided at that age group. Or cut up, real tiny. High choking risk. I'll give you a quick little sidebar on Kaylin. She was one to put everything in her mouth. We're at my sister's, and she was in between 2 and 3, and look over, and she's turning blue. She had swallowed 6 pennies. Of course, we called 911. In 1 minute, she'd breathe, and the next minute, she wouldn't. Finally, get her to the hospital. They x-ray. She had finally passed them all. She had 6 pennies in her belly. And it's just that diameter was blocking as she tried to swallow. So for the next week or 2, we had to examine every diaper till we counted out 6 pennies. That was fun.
Did they all come out?
What's that?
Did they all come out?
They all came out.
How long did it take?
Probably a good week. Yeah.
I wondered that. They do swallow.
They were just worried about blockages, obviously, so you had to make sure that we counted 6 pennies. She said she was her own ATM. Yeah.
Very lighthearted about
Made
it.
to change diapers.
Yep.
Pardon the pun. Make a change.
For protein, only 2 to maybe 5 ounces a day. And that depends on your child. Again, if you're talking about a 2-year-old versus a 4-year-old, in that age range. And by the time you split that up with 3 meals or even a snack, you're only looking at 1.5 ounces to 2 ounces per meal, you know? That goes quick. 1 egg would serve as a serving size of 7 grams of protein. A cup of milk has about 8 grams of protein, so that adds up quick. 1 ounce of cooked meat, so turkey, fish. Want you to lean toward those lean meats, the poultries without the skin, roast beef, things like that are all fine. Limit the hot dogs. I know that's a tough one with the little ones, and especially this time of year, to grill out the dogs. High link between different types of cancer and our high nitrate meats. So they definitely seeing a correlation, studies show. So, but peanut butter or nut butters will also count. Just a tablespoon of peanut butter or nut butter can count as a serving size at that age. Okay. Tofu? Kids do tofu?
We've probably never tried it.
Haven't tried it with them yet? What's that?
That's a soy product.
Yeah.
Soy.
It's squishy. It kind of reminds you like a mushroom almost. It's just going to absorb the flavors of whatever you prepare it with. But it's nutrient dense and a good protein source. Tuna fish. Yeah. Veggies. This is the hardest group, I think, for most parents to work in. Even for adults. We as adults don't consume near the amount of vegetables a day that we should have, 2 to 5 servings a day. But think about that plate. Go back to that area. You want half that plate to be fruits and vegetables for every meal. But a half cup of cooked, chopped vegetables is a serving, half a cup. Half a cup of mashed, if they're younger and you're cooking them and mashing them, serving size is still a half cup. But a full cup if it's raw. So if you're making a salad, then it's a full cup, because there's just so much air in there, yeah. Again, careful with the sizing of the vegetables, like a carrot and a 2-year-old. If you need to cut it in half or quarter them, do so, just to prevent the choking. Okay. Vegetable juice. Half a cup of vegetable juice if your kids will drink vegetable juice. Mine never would. Yeah, as much as I tried, no go. Fluids. Something we got to do is talk about water. I think we do a better job as parents now than what we did when we were younger as far as pushing water. Beverages at that age, they say, should never be a soda. It should always be milk or water or 4 ounces of juice a day, and that's it. So up to about 5 cups a day is what's recommended for water. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're really good this day and age to have our water bottles all over the place. I would, definitely keep a water bottle with their name on it and encourage that sipping in between meals and stay well hydrated. Studies show that the better hydrated we are, the less likely we are to just want to constantly graze and eat all day. That your body will tell you to eat or to eat if you're not going to drink and crave things that are watery. So it just creates healthy habits as they grow older to keep focus on that hydration. Again, no sweetened beverages. They just take up space in the child's diet and bathe their teeth in a sugary solution. Okay. Some tips to enhance their learning and acceptance of foods. Involve them in meal planning. That might be hard to do, but you could, when you're getting ready to get groceries, ask them, what would you like to eat this week? Take one of them to the grocery store with you if two's too many, and help pick out fruits and veggies and different meal items and say, we planned this meal and we're going to need this to make this. Get them involved early. When my kids were little, I had a step stool in the kitchen. So as soon as they were able to stand and pay attention at all, they were at the counter helping me, stirring, opening bags, whatever it is. Keep them involved so that they create an interest. And both my kids did, and they both are the ones that prepare the meals in their homes today. Gary, my son, does all the cooking at home, not his wife. But we created that early, that love of trying new foods. And he was simple. He was the one kid that, at 4 years old, you could put calamari in front of him and he'd try it, He was willing to try anything. But the time Kaylin was 5, she was asking for spinach for a snack at bedtime. So learn to create those things and keep reintroducing foods. So Kaylin was my tough one. She disliked everything at first, would just want to drink her fluids and that was it. She was on the 3rd, 4th percentile. She was very tiny, but it was reintroducing and reintroducing foods over and over. Don't give up there. Good example would be our granddaughter Ellie. She's 13 months. She had watermelon maybe a week ago, would have nothing to do with it. And reintroduced it yesterday, and I said, and first they're like, she doesn't like it. And I said, well, you can't give up, you gotta keep trying. So I chunked it up, put it on her plate, and she absolutely loved it. She wanted the rind and all. So it's just a matter of keep trying and being confident, and don't stop cooking something or making them something else because they don't want what you've prepared. And that's another easy mom out to just say, I'll warm you a piece of pizza or something like that. But if the more that we do that, the more we feed into those unhealthy lifestyles. So a good tip to do is if they decide they don't want to eat dinner when it's time for dinner, wrap their plate, put it in the fridge, and say, when you're hungry, this is what's ready for you. And to avoid those high-calorie sweets in moderation. I would never say never. Can you have chocolate or candy or chips or any of those things? It's just not the daily go-to all day long type of a snack. For those types of things, lean towards cheese chunks, fruit chunks, whole grain crackers, things like that they can, you can do flavored waters. You know, I use watermelon in my water all summer, or strawberries and oranges, things that flavor the water naturally, and that they can enjoy it that way. I like seeing that orange slice in their water. Yeah. So a good way to nourish. Another tip is always eat your meals at the table and not in front of the TV, which is a tough one, I know. It's my kids always wanted, not to say never, but in generalizations, throughout life, studies again show that the more we allow those types of behaviors, they become triggers for eating. If I'm in front of the TV, I want to eat. It's not a matter of hunger, it's a matter of habit. So to break those habits early, yeah, it's tough for all of us. I can tell you, Gary and I are the same way at night. Come sit down, not hungry. We had a meal an hour ago, but to sit down in front of the TV is definitely a trigger that all of a sudden I want to snack on something. So to encourage earlier in life to eat at the table, okay? Use appropriate plate sizes too to help with portion control. Let's see what else I missed here. Something I did with Kaylin a lot is I used cookie cutters. If she didn't like something, a pancake, I mean, she would even want to try that. But if I made it with a cookie cutter and made it look like Mickey Mouse, it was a whole different thing. And she was willing to try things. What's that?
Stamp the pancake.
Yeah.
The edges is what I eat.
Just the edges.
They get the side.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's definitely something. I did it with sandwiches, peanut butter sandwiches, whatever. If I created a shape, it was something new and different. And
Cut 4 times. Is that it?
And keeping variety is huge. I know it takes planning. It really does. And it takes making a list, going into the grocery store, I need this, 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 and this. But after a while, it does create much better eating habits for lifelong. And you can't, keeping them involved in introducing those variety to new foods is really the biggest thing. Look at that My Plate, and realize half that plate's fruits and veggies. The other half is just whole grain in the corner and protein at the bottom. We don't need near amount of protein as you think you do at that age. They do have growing muscles and they're busy, and that's going to vary from a very active kid to somebody who's more sedentary and would prefer to draw and read books. You know, it does make a bit of a difference. Website, myplate.gov, if you go to there, you can put in your child's gender, their age, their weight, that type of a thing, and it can actually give you a guideline for exact calories and a more precise meal plan. Make it individualized for you, but that's from the USDA, Food and Nutrition Services, so it'll give you a pretty good rough guideline there. Okay. Use colorful plates, napkins. It does help when they're young to enhance their enjoyment of a meal, especially if it's not one of their favorite things. And we always had a rule in our house. You have to try one bite. You gotta try, if it's even if it's beets, which aren't my favorite food, one bite. And as I got a little older, it was 2 bites if they didn't like it. But after the 2-bite rule, you're done. You don't have to clean your plate. That's another thing, we don't clean plates. If they're not hungry, they're not hungry. Wrap that plate up, save it, put it away, and when they are ready to eat, you can warm it right back up, and it's not, can I have a cookie, you know, when they didn't eat anything healthy for that meal. So that's pretty much it. Any questions? Yeah.
The thing I have, like, maybe 4. The first one is, so these are all the different portion sizes. And
Yep.
it's like one meal that could pretty much cover all of these portions. And I guess sometimes, like, breakfast is huge, and they eat that much at breakfast, and then they're not hungry the entire rest of the day. And I guess, I just wonder if that's fine, or you should try to, like, balance it out a bit more.
If they're eating, like you said, if they're eating a good
Amount.
amount in one meal, I think that'll stretch out as they get older.
Yeah.
And their weight's definitely not an issue. And they're burning it off. And as long as they stay on their growth charts and are showing that they're doing fine, don't stress over that. They'll go through food jags too, where a food jag is when they'll focus on one food for a long time.
Yeah.
I want this food every day.
One egg, but sometimes it's like 6 eggs in one day.
Yeah, that's a food jag. And they're a normal part of childhood. We see it all the time.
There's growth spurts, and there's probably triggers that go on where they say, okay, we need some protein. And
Yeah.
Kids crave eggs. It's probably no different than when
He's-
you're craving.
yeah.
You're craving for a reason. Your body's sending you signals.
Agreed.
And especially with children going through stages, they're
Yeah.
going to have these spurts that happen. that
You're going to absolutely have growth spurts like that. And that's to be expected. I wouldn't worry unless it was a very unhealthy food trigger of some sort. Then, of course, draw concern. But if they're eating eggs and getting protein, and there is no recommendations on limitations on eggs either. So, you know, that's been removed. It's considered obsolete.
When I was growing up, everybody,
There's 3 eggs a week.
yeah,
Yeah, that used to be the recommendations from the American Heart Association. It is no longer believed to be the case because eggs are considered a complete protein. And the yolk, even though people get rid of the yolks, if you're a middle-aged adult with a cholesterol problem, that's a whole different story. We're not talking about that. We're talking about kids. It's full of vitamin E. Fine. Don't worry about that. So as long as they're growing and staying on their growth chart, you're good. Okay? Yeah.
Okay, so another question is, if say you didn't have all those vegetables and fruits, would a vitamin be a supplement or not really?
I don't know if you heard that. She's asking if a vitamin is a good plan of action when they don't eat well enough on certain fruits and vegetables. And I would say yes, it's of benefit. But yes, it's like a little nutrition insurance. I take vitamins every day. So I believe in their benefit and their efficacy. So that with children, absolutely. But I would not give up on the fruits and the vegetables. Like I said, Kaylin would eat nothing when she was 2. It took everything we could do to get that child to eat. By the time she's 5, she's asking for spinach at bedtime. So, and it's like, you're going to make her spinach tonight? And I said, you bet. If she's asking for it, I'm not going to deny her that, you know. That is an extreme for most kids, aren't going to do that. But the point I'm trying to get across is don't give up on those things. You know, oh, they're not going to like that. Or, you know, if it literally causes vomiting, and which I've seen some kids work themselves up to do, yeah, give them some space. You know, don't push it to that extreme. But a 1-bite, 2-bite rule, and they eventually find, especially if they're helping prepare it. You know, I don't want you to hand them over a cleaver and ask them to clean something off or anything, but they can help you wash vegetables and then watch you as you cut them up or whatever. But I know that really made a big difference for both my kids to get them involved. Okay.
The reintroducing food, does that continue even when they get older, like an 11-year-old?
Yes.
I tried that once, I like it.
Nope, keep trying. I wouldn't give up. I wouldn't give up.
I've always had her do that, you have to at least try it, and then she'll pull me, well, I did try this, remember, I like it. I never thought about the reintroducing.
The brick wall probably solidifies as they get older.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. A little less,
Yeah, it'll take,
challenging to trick 'em into it.
I think once they hit 11, it gets harder because they're definitely much more opinionated by then. But I would still encourage retrying and retrying. My own taste changed as I got older. I didn't like a lot of things, even in high school, and it wasn't until I was cooking at home and I thought, oh, I should try Brussels sprouts and recook these. Hated them growing up. Hated them. Now I love them. But I cook them my way, you know? Makes a big difference. So the only thing I had,
There's an incredible range of people and their tastes, and I'm a texture person. Textures bother me,
yeah,
and it's interesting to talk to people. I've read articles about it. A lot of very picky eaters.
it's a very real
have
thing.
Extremely good taste, have a very good smell typically. So you're tasting things that people who aren't finicky and picky just don't taste.
Yeah,
And or the texture thing.
Yeah.
I'm a big texture guy.
Yeah.
I couldn't eat a tomato to save my life, but I love tomato sauce. Same thing with an orange. I could eat an orange, but it would be, but orange juice
but orange juice.
all day long.
Okay. Well, that's what you do. And I have worked with Kaylin again. One was very texture sensitive, and that was part of that learning process for me. And it's actually turned out to be to my benefit to have to experience that firsthand so that I could help others. And that's exactly right. You know, I have a daughter-in-law who's the same way. Can't stand the texture of fruit in her mouth, but will do great with smoothies. And our son hides spinach in her smoothies and kale in her smoothies and things like that. Reintroduce. In fact, you can't. You know, Gary made a smoothie the other day that he just poked his head in. They had kale and spinach in it, and you couldn't even taste it, you know. And, you know, when you add a good handful of blueberries or raspberries and it's red, yeah.
Instead it looks like a green pond.
I'm glad you mentioned
you
the
wish you
hot
were
dogs.
colorblind.
Like, speaking of like hiding things in other foods that you don't recognize, because our son Guy will love a hot dog, and it's just this like magic food. I don't know what it even is, but he'll eat it. And so it's like, great, let's get him a hot dog today. It's just easy, but everywhere you go to get a hot dog, it's probably different, and
Yeah.
you never really know what the food is.
And again, it's not to say never hot dogs. It just shouldn't be the everyday thing. That's,
And it's not likely he is eating enough to really.
yeah.
be a problem.
Okay.
It's like once a
And
week.
keep trying with them.
Yeah, the
He's
same.
got a lot.
Yeah. Limit the processed, you know. The closer we get to a whole food and more natural,
I like that, yeah.
you know, that's just, it's so easy to, you know, I experienced this myself. You want to grab what's quick and easy and that they like. But health-wise, in the long run, for all of us, the closer to a whole food, much more natural, much healthier, nutrient-dense, fiber-dense, and it pays off in the long run into adulthood. So, and we are seeing things that I never saw before in my career as a dietitian. Type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol in kids
Wow.
and
Well,
children.
I personally believe that it's the sedentary factor that plays into it.
Oh, absolutely.
Way
That's
more than the nutritional level.
Well,
I think
that's
your- I think your
definitely
body- I
a
think your
variable.
body will get you what you need from, cravings and whatever. It's these
Mm-hmm.
kids just aren't doing stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, childhood obesity and things of that sort. It's,
Mm-hmm.
you can offset a lot of dietary issues if you just move.
Oh, absolutely. I forget what the exact number or statistics, but it's in the 90s% of diseases that can be prevented through proper nutrition.
Right.
Start young. I mean, so much happens in those young years that has a lifelong impact. So you can't negate that a good, healthy diet and activity throughout an early childhood plays well long into adulthood. It really does. Makes a big difference. Okay. That's all right.
Thank you,
Thank you
Kristy.
very much,
Thank you.
Kristy.
You're welcome.